Hello guys, welcome back. This is the second video of Oracle database. In this video, let's discuss each and every part of architecture and also how to establish a session and when you query a database, how the internal process takes place. Okay, it is the architecture of Oracle database server. Instance, background process and database are the internal parts of the architecture, and the processes like a user process, a listener and server process will helps the user in order to establish the session. So we'll know more about these processes, and also once the session is established with the database, instance is initiated along with the background processes, and also data space is allocated to the user in the data files. We'll know more about session. First of all, we need to establish a session in order to communicate with the database. So, in order to communicate with the database, first we have to create a user. A user is created with username, password and some space on a table space. We'll know what is table space and everything in next upcoming videos. Up to now, just remember the words what I am using. So, we have to create a user with a password and a password and a username, and we have to assign him a data space in the data files or table space. For example, I have created a name, a username Suma and password as something XX, and I'm giving 100 MB of space in the data files on a user table space. So this is the way of creating a user, and then we have to log in with the credentials that we have used at the time of creating a user. For example, Suma is my username and a password is something. Okay, so we have to execute the command for user login like SQL plus a username and user password. After that, the session is established. That means we have connected with the database and we can create tables in the space that we have allocated at the time of creating a user. So what is the process that is taken place in between the user creation and establishment of a session. Whenever you log in as a user process is generated. User process is nothing but a software which has the user details. User details in the sense, a user when it is created, username, password and session ID, and how much data space it has allocated to. So these are the user details that are stored in the user process when a user is logged in. After that, this user process will share these user details to the listener. Listener is just a mediator. What it will do is, it just transfer the user details to the server process, and it has another role. It will controls the traffic in the sense, if a n number of users wants to establish the connection with the database at the same time, at a time they wants to establish a session, so then the listener will controls the traffic. That means listener will be only one. A user process will be many. Each user will have one user process, one server process, and the listener will be one. For example, I am the user 1. I have one user process, server process. For user 2, he has one user process and one server process, but for both the user 1 and user 2 will have only one listener. So this listener will controls the session of user 1 and user 2. And after the user, this user will, after the listener will forwards those user details to the server process. The server process will approve each and every detail of user, and it will establish the session with database. Whenever the server approves, the instance is created. Instance, we have talked about instance from the starting. Instance is similar to the RAM memory of a CPU, of a computer. So it is a volatile memory, same like RAM. That is, whenever a user establishes a connection with the database, then only an instance is created. So this is all about the session establishment. So next in upcoming videos we will know, after establishing a session with the database, what will happen, how instance will work and database, and also background process.